On the night of March 8, 1971, while most of America was watching the first Ali Frazier fight, 8 ordinary citizens broke into an FBI field office in Media, Pennsylvania. They weren't criminals, they were activists, and they believed the FBI was running a secret program to destroy political dissent in America. They stole over 1,000 classified documents. Then they mailed them to newspapers across the country. Only one outlet would publish them, the Washington Post. What those documents revealed was one of the most disturbing domestic intelligence operations in American history. A program designed not to protect the country, but to silence anyone who challenged the existing order. The FBI called it COINTELPRO, short for counterintelligence program. And for 15 years, from 1956 to 1971, it targeted American citizens on American soil, using tactics that included surveillance, blackmail, psychological warfare, fabricated evidence, and assassination. This is the story of how the most powerful law enforcement agency in the United States waged a secret war against its own people, and how that war shaped the country you live in today. COINTELPRO was the creation of one man, J. Edgar Hoover. By 1956, Hoover had been running the FBI for over 30 years. He had built it into the most sophisticated domestic intelligence apparatus in the world, and he had a very specific vision of what America should look like. The program began as an operation against the Communist Party of the United States, but it didn't stay there. By the 1960s, COINTELPRO had expanded to target the Socialist Workers' Party, the anti-war movement, the American Indian movement, Puerto Rican independence groups, student organizations, and, most aggressively, the Black Freedom Movement. Hoover's directive was explicit. The FBI was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of black nationalist organizations. Those weren't the words of a rogue agent. They were written in an official FBI memorandum distributed to field offices across the country. And the word neutralize was not a metaphor. The FBI's toolkit included anonymous phone calls designed to break up marriages, forged letters meant to trigger violence between organizations, IRS audits weaponized against political targets, media manipulation to discredit leaders in the press. They fabricated cartoons attributed to the Black Panthers to provoke other groups. They sent fake death threats signed with the names of rival organizations. One of Hoover's specific goals, outlined in a 1968 memo, was to prevent the rise of what he called a Black Messiah, a leader who could unify and electrify the movement. 3 men were named as particular threats: Stokely Carmichael, Elijah Muhammad, and Martin Luther King Jr. The FBI had been surveilling King since 1955. They wiretapped his phones, bugged his hotel rooms, compiled dossiers on his personal life. In 1964, the FBI sent King an anonymous letter that scholars have interpreted as a direct encouragement for him to take his own life. The letter arrived alongside recordings from his hotel rooms. These operations were not carried out by a handful of rogue agents. They were authorized at the highest levels of the Bureau and coordinated across dozens of field offices nationwide. But it was in Chicago where COINTELPRO would reveal its most lethal capability. Fred Hampton was 21 years old. He was the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, and he was exactly the kind of leader Hoover feared most. Hampton was charismatic, disciplined, and politically brilliant. He had founded what he called the Rainbow Coalition, an alliance between the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican organization, and the Young Patriots, a group of white working-class Appalachians. He was building something the FBI had worked specifically to prevent: unity across racial lines. Hoover's directives were clear: destroy what the Black Panther Party stands for, eradicate its Serve the People programs. The FBI had opened a file on Hampton in 1967 when he was barely 19. They tapped his mother's phone. They placed him on the Bureau's agitator index. And then they sent in William O'Neill. O'Neill was a young man facing felony charges for car theft and impersonating a federal officer. The FBI offered him a deal. In exchange for dropping the charges and a monthly paycheck, he would infiltrate the Black Panthers. O'Neill rose quickly. He became the chapter's director of security. He became Fred Hampton's personal bodyguard. On the night of December 3, 1969, O'Neill served Hampton a drink laced with a barbiturate sedative. Hampton fell asleep mid-conversation with his mother on the phone. He would not wake up. At 4:45 the next morning, 14 Chicago police officers stormed the apartment at 2337 West Monroe Street. They were armed with shotguns, handguns, and a submachine gun, and they carried a detailed floor plan of the apartment, drawn by O'Neill and provided to them by the FBI. The floor plan marked the exact location of Hampton's bed. The police fired between 90 and 99 rounds into the apartment. The Panthers fired once. A single shot from Mark Clark's shotgun, which discharged as he was hit and fell to the ground. Clark was killed. 4 other Panthers were critically wounded. Hampton's fiancée, Deborah Johnson, 8 months pregnant, was lying beside him when officers forced her out of the bedroom. She heard one officer ask, "Is he still alive?" 2 shots were fired. Then another voice, "He's good and dead now." Fred Hampton was 21 years old. 6 days later, a letter arrived at the desk of FBI Special Agent Roy Martin Mitchell, the man who had handled O'Neill and passed the floor plan to the police. The letter was from J. Edgar Hoover himself. It commended Mitchell for his exemplary efforts in the racial field. It approved a $200 bonus. O'Neill received a $300 bonus for the floor plan. Bureau documents described his information as being of tremendous value and called the raid a success. The FBI called the raid a shootout. The Chicago police said the Panthers had opened fire. The story held for years. Then, in 1973, a federal prosecutor revealed that William O'Neill was a paid FBI informant. The floor plan surfaced. The bonus documents followed. A civil rights lawsuit filed by the Hampton and Clark families and the surviving Panthers would drag on for 13 years. In 1982, the city of Chicago, Cook County, and the federal government agreed to pay $1.85 million to the families. No one was ever criminally charged. But it was the stolen documents from Media, Pennsylvania, the ones taken the night of the Ali Frazier fight, that cracked COINTELPRO wide open. Under mounting public pressure, the Senate launched an investigation in 1975. The Church Committee, chaired by Senator Frank Church of Idaho, spent over a year examining the FBI, CIA, and NSA. What they found was staggering. The FBI had conducted over 2,000 COINTELPRO operations. 233 of them targeted the Black Panther Party alone. The committee's conclusion was unsparing. They wrote that many of the techniques used would be intolerable in a democratic society, even if all of the targets had been involved in violent activity. But COINTELPRO, they said, went far beyond that. The Bureau had conducted what the committee called a sophisticated vigilante operation, aimed squarely at preventing the exercise of First Amendment rights of speech and association, not against foreign enemies, against American citizens exercising their constitutional rights on American soil. COINTELPRO was officially terminated in 1971, but its legacy is anything but finished. In 2017, the FBI's Counterterrorism Division created a new threat category. They called it Black Identity Extremism. The designation was applied in the midst of nationwide Black Lives Matter protests. Leaked documents later revealed an FBI operation called Iron Fist, designed to use undercover agents and enhanced intelligence collection against what they described as a priority domestic terrorism target. The names change, the language updates, but the architecture remains. COINTELPRO wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a rogue operation. It was policy, authorized, funded, and rewarded at the highest levels of the federal government. Millions of pages of COINTELPRO documents remain classified. Many released documents are heavily redacted. The FBI files on Fred Hampton's murder, released in 2021, more than 50 years later, still contain blacked-out sections. We know what we know. We don't know what we're not allowed to see. Fred Hampton once said, "You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution." The FBI proved him half right. They couldn't jail it, so they killed it in its bed. The stories that shape who we are aren't always the ones we're taught. Sometimes the most important ones are the ones that were erased. If you believe those stories deserve to be told, subscribe to Epoch Origins. There's a lot more to decode.